The Seer Show is a live broadcast of truth seekers and believers, empowering the evolution of consciousness. Raphael and Celeste will dive deeper than the mainstream media while answering the mind's deeper questions and transforming conversations. They will have unique guest speakers who will share knowledge, tools, and techniques to create coherence in our mind, body, and spirit.
Good morning, Celeste. How are you?
Oh, good morning to New York and good evening here to very stormy Queensland. Wow.
I hear. I hear it's raining cats and dogs over there.
It is, and it's loud thunder. And talking about dogs, I currently have my dog shaking in the shower. They're very brave dogs, but when it comes to storms and rain, they get very nervous. So those are my little puppies, the typical shaking when it rains and thunders.
Right. But you also have cats. How are they doing?
We do. He's cool with it.
Really?
He just chills. Yeah. He has 9 lives, so he's like, right.
I'm okay. I'm okay.
I'm okay.
Pretty exciting day for us because we have an amazing guest with us, right? We have Cat Valentine. My God, when I was reading her bio and all that she's done, I'm like, she's lived way longer than 150 years, right? I think so. I think she is an amazing person. And without having people wait, let's go ahead and bring Kat on. She is just amazing. She has so many accolades behind her name that we're just going to call her Kat. Amazing,
Yeah.
amazing. Kat, good morning or good evening to you as well, because you're also in Australia.
Yes, I am. Good morning to you and good evening, Celeste. I'm sharing the thunderstorm.
Yes, it probably came from the Gold Coast up to where I am.
Correct. Yeah.
Well, I am surrounded by
two
two beautiful women, so wow. Thank you.
Oh, the pleasure is ours, Raphael.
So I know that, and I don't want to take this question away from Celeste, but I have the same question. Your life took a change, and there was a moment in your life when that happened. Would you mind sharing what we call a transformation, or that moment in your life where something clicked for you and you're like, wait a minute, this is what I need to do with my life?
Yeah, I would love to say this was what I need to do. It was definitely a transformation moment. I remember I was sitting on the stairs in the home that I'd built with my husband, my partner of 30 years. And the kids were all out in the kitchen. They were all out and they were arguing over something. And I sat on the stairs and I realized that our relationship was over. And that I'd been trying not to think about it for 6 years, but it was over.
Wow.
And in that moment, I had to make the decision to leave because we were both, I joke, but it's not funny. Ha ha ha. There's nothing as contagious as mental illness. And we were both unwell and our kids were really suffering and we were all suffering and I had to leave. And that was probably the darkest period of my life. I was terrified. I felt so alone. I had absolutely no idea what the future would hold. And I really didn't want to live. I didn't want to die, but I didn't want to live.
Right. And
I felt like that for a few months until one of my sons just said, "Oh, come on, Mum, let's do something." It was like a property mentoring group. Come on, Mum, we'll go renovate the house or something, And in that property group, what they really loved was mindset. That's what they were interested in. And in there, I started to understand that life could be something else. And it started a journey for me of discovery and just understanding how much choice I actually had.
Right.
And that I could determine how I felt and what life looked like for me. And that was so that moment of transformation felt like the most desperate time, and yet that was the biggest gift that I've had by far. Yeah.
So sometimes those rock bottom moments, right? Those are the ones that we always sometimes come back to, right? And just in case anybody's watching us or listening to us right now, we lost Celeste, so she'll do her best to come back. So when we think about those moments, they definitely transform us, because our thought process has to change in order for us to move on, or we wind up going into a deeper hole, right?
Absolutely. And people would say to me, you're so brave. And I'm thinking, I don't have a choice here. I don't feel brave. I'm just putting one foot after the other. But what I think they meant was that I chose to do something and take a step that they weren't prepared to do. That's what they meant by brave. But for me, it almost wasn't a choice. It felt like, if I don't do this, things will get even worse. It wasn't a choice as such. It just was something that I did. And it transformed my life, without doubt. Without doubt. It's the greatest gift that I've ever been given.
Yeah. And for your son to step in and go, Mom, let's do something. That was great.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And when we think about our kids and the part that they're involved with, right? It really is something for them, because, and you said you guys were all suffering, but you realized that, hey, in order for this to stop, I have to take action, right?
Correct. I had to do something. Nobody was coming to rescue me, right? Gotcha. There was no magic solution. I'd been hoping for one of those for 6 years, right? I'd been hoping that things would change, but it wasn't going to happen. Nothing changes until something changes, and change can start with one step, with one decision, and it just then starts you on a path where you just have to take one more step, and that's all they did. I mean, there were times that there was no way I could have imagined the life I have now when I took that first step. Right? There's no way. And yet I just kept taking the steps, and magic happens.
Magic does happen, right? So tell me, how many kids did you have at that time?
4. I have 4 children.
My.
Yeah.
Congratulations. That is awesome.
No, it is awesome. It is. And they were, my baby at the time was 21 and the oldest was 27. They were all adults.
Right.
But they had seen for the last few years that, my partner and I, when we met and when we got married, of course we were in love, and he still is. He's an extraordinary man, and we had plans and we had dreams, and we talked about what our family was going to be and how our kids and what we're going to do and commit, and we did all that. Right. But what we never talked about was feelings. Never talked about feelings. And then when, he started to go through that classic midlife crisis and he started to withdraw, and then I started to have feelings about that, and then all my fears came up and they multiplied, and we both became really unwell and disconnected. And it just, then there was some really unresourceful behavior and, ways of dealing with the feelings that we didn't know how to express or face or feel. And our relationship suffered. Of course, the kids' relationship with us suffered. The kids' relationships with themselves suffered. Our house used to be this hub where everyone came, and suddenly it wasn't. It was just sad. It was just sad.
Yeah, I get you. You know,
Yeah.
one of the things that, and I brought us in closer. What?
Yeah.
So,
Yum. It's more intimate.
yeah. So one of the things that, you know, I went through, not necessarily similar because every situation and every relationship is different. But my ex went through, I guess, midlife I'm going to say craziness, not crisis, right? Um, I think she lost all control of what was important in life. And one of the things is, so many people say they go through a midlife crisis, right? I don't think I ever will because I'm still a kid.
You lucky thing.
You know, I feel like when there's kids playing, I'm one of them. If people go, look at all the kids over there playing around, getting crazy. I'm like, wait a minute, Raphael's with them.
Of course he is.
Because we have to remember the beauty in relationships, the beauty and joy that we can have with one another. And a lot of people forget that. And you talked about the emotions, right? The feelings, even though you guys planned, right? You didn't plan on the fact that, you know, we need to do this together. So for somebody to go through a midlife crisis is basically because they're alone. That's how I see it. You know?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And just closed up. And the thing is, what I have learned in all this work is that we are feeling machines. Everything, Raphael, that you want to be or achieve or do is ultimately because of the feeling you will get. That's the only motivation.
Right.
And yet we are really unskilled at feeling our feelings, processing our feelings, and communicating them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's quite extraordinary, you know. And what I find scary, I mean, this stuff is real. People die trying to chase feelings or avoid them. Right? That's the reality. If people become comfortable with feeling their feelings, just having a feeling, that's not necessary.
Right.
But, you know, I knew none of this. I was busy trying to avoid feelings and just push them there because that's how I grew up. You know, if you were sad, it's, oh, come on, get over it. Don't be silly. If you were too happy, it's, come on, get over it. Don't be silly. You know, there would be angry outbursts of frustration.
Right.
And then you would be told to go to your room, but there was no discussion. So I learned nothing. I've had to do a crash course in the last few years of my life. You know? And again, understanding that what we are trying to avoid is nothing more than a flood of chemicals in our body that makes our body feel a certain way. That's what a feeling is. Like, a feeling won't kill us. No one has ever died having a feeling. People die trying to avoid them. And that, for me, like that, if I could have everyone in the world just comfortable being in their body and going, oh, this pain in my chest really is so uncomfortable. This is grief, or this is, and it's okay. It's okay to feel the grief. It's okay to feel the sadness, the shame, the whatever it is. Because what our feelings are when we're connected to them is they are markers, indicators about the stories our mind is telling us. You know, what's going on in our life, how aligned we are to the ideals that we want to live by or not, how aligned we are with the life we want to lead or not. But when we push the feelings down, we disconnect from that and we just end up so lost. And that was me. I had no idea who I was. I mean, somebody said to me, oh, you're so lucky. You can do whatever you want, whatever makes you happy. And I burst into tears because I had no idea what that was. You know, I was so disconnected from me.
Right.
And the only way back to me was to learn how to feel what I was feeling as I was navigating life. Because that gives me an idea of who I am. How I react to this situation is an indicator to me about who I am, whether I'm, living by my values, have I got my boundaries in place? Am I enjoying myself? Is this aligned with what I want to do? All of that, and it's a whole new world when you're not scared to have a feeling.
Yeah. It's very interesting that and I've seen it in people who've been living a life where they're not really coming out into whom they should be. And they die with that, right? I've seen it. I've seen people who are living not the life that they truly should have lived, right? Because they were afraid. They were forget afraid. They were terrified.
Terrified of what?
And there's a lot of people out there who are still terrified to live the life that they should be living.
Yeah.
And there's different times when we come to that point and we say, I don't want this. I think it happened for me when I was very young. So my first instance was when I was 10, and my second instance was when I was 18.
Wow, what happened when you were 10? I'm so curious.
What didn't happen when I was 10?
Because I've heard you speak before, and I know you come from a huge family.
Yes. I'm number 10 of 12. So I believe that, and now I understand. I came from an abusive family, right? I guess my parents did. It's like they had all these kids. They didn't know how to treat them. So, you whack them and then maybe they'll fall into place. And then hitting your kids became so commonplace that sometimes if they were just got in front of you, you hit them. So a lot of times I got hit. I had listen, if I got into trouble because I did something, okay, maybe I understood why. I mean, no one should get hit because they messed up, right? But I was getting hit without understanding why.
Yeah.
Once in a while, yeah, maybe I broke something or I did something. But sometimes just to get hit for no reason, it's like, what did I do this time? And at 10 years old, I ran away and lived on the streets.
Wow.
For about 2 weeks until they found me. And then once they found me, guess what I got? A beating for running away. So,
right.
And I am very fortunate. I have one of my sisters who said enough is enough. She was old enough and she was married and she took me because I said, if this is happening again, you may have found me this one time, but you will never find me again. And it was about to be that again at the age of 10. So at the age of 18, I said to my sister, I want nothing to do with my other family except you. I want to see them. I never want to see them. I want nothing to do with them. And she cried and she goes, you can't do that. It's your mom, it's your dad, it's your siblings. I said, I can't take it anymore. I said, I can't. And I said, I'm sorry. It's not going to happen. I don't want them in my life. It took me about 3 years, 3 weeks, 3 years, 3 weeks, right? And then I said, I'm going to forgive them. And I'm going to truly forgive them. Because a lot of people will forgive, but they'll remind them, right? They'll say, remember what you did this to me? You did that, da, da, da. I've never done that. So people who know my story of how I got abused, they're like, how do you talk so lovingly about them? I said, because I forgave them. I said, true forgiveness is not telling somebody, remember when you did this? Remember, so none of that stuff. So for me, at the age of 18, I truly forgave them for all that they had done. And then the other thing I try to do is understand, because
Correct.
sometimes if we can't understand, and listen, I still don't understand, but I tried, right? We never know what someone else can do. And the biggest lesson for me was we cannot control someone else. The only person we can control is us, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
I want to give a big
absolutely.
shout out. We have one of my good friends, actually two of my good friends, Darren Kirby and Carrie Marfino. They're both watching us on Facebook. So thank you guys for being here.
Well,
They
hello.
both have
Thank
been on my
you.
show as well. Amazing, amazing coaches, right? So, Kat,
Brilliant.
what happened to you when you realized sitting on the steps and saying, wow, we grew apart? There's this anguish that's going on in our whole family, not just me, but I can see it in my partner. I can see it in my kids. What happened to you after that realization?
After that, I left. Well, a whole lot of things. We had to sell the house because we'd been incredibly successful, but
Right.
in the during my husband's sort of mental health issues, he'd become really financially irresponsible. And we'd ended up having to sell the house, and he left because he couldn't deal with selling the house. So it was an enormous home. So I packed it up and sold it and moved into rental accommodation. And some of the kids moved with me and some of them didn't. And then he came back for the auction of the house, and then he came into the rental accommodation, and he wasn't leaving, right? So then I had to leave that and find somewhere else to live. And I just felt, I don't know why, but nearly everyone I meet when I work with them now, I'm exactly the same, that we don't change until the pain of staying the same is worse than the pain of change. You know, it takes that much pain in order to go, fine, I'm going to do something about it. And it was at that point. So then I left, and I honestly would go to sleep at night really praying and hoping I wouldn't wake up in the morning.
Oh my God.
Because I didn't want to get through a day, right?
Yeah.
Then I'd wake up in the morning and just go, oh, what am I supposed to do? Like, you know, people talk about a dark night of the soul. And that's where I was. And what happened was that just bit by bit, and there were serendipitous encounters, and there was just, I started learning and I started healing. And then I did a few workshops that I did for my own personal growth. But what happened in these workshops, the way they were structured, was that you also got coaching qualifications. And I did these workshops for a year. And even at the end of it, the facilitator had said to me, so what are you doing after this? And I still have like an organic tea business. I said, I'm going to do my tea. And she went, oh, okay. And then for my New Year's resolution, I'd said something about, when she has licensees who are going to train people to be coaches, I'm going to be one of her licensees. Don't even know where this came from. Okay, she didn't even have any licensees, right? I just wrote that. And then in the late January, I saw her put a post up, and she was with her licensees that she'd chosen. And I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. I thought, I've missed out. And I went, no, hang on, no, because you said 18 months. It's okay. So I sent her a beautiful email saying, congratulations, well done, this is brilliant. Whenever you want someone for the outer circle, around the inner circle, I'm putting my hand up. And she rang me immediately and said, are you interested? I said, well, yes. She said, because when I asked you, you were talking about your tea business. And so then I trained with her and became a licensee and started training people in this work. And then I've learned other modalities and trained people to be coaches in this work. So it's suddenly become my life, where I've surrounded by people who all want to transform or want to help others transform. And there's a completely different energy. You know, I've worked one-on-one with people, of course, as well, who just, you know, when you hear people's stories, from where I come from, anything less than nurturing is abuse, and all abuse creates trauma.
Right.
all abuse. You know, like there's no competition about your story is worse than my story, right?
No,
All
there is
abuse
none.
creates all abuse creates trauma. And with that knowledge, I had to put my hand up and say, I've been an abusive parent. That was not easy, you know? And when you talk about your parents, and mine was similar to yours, it's like they were doing the best they could with what they had.
Yeah.
But there were moments in their life when they were not very resourceful and they didn't know better. I bet they got treated the same way they treated you.
That's exactly what my thoughts were, you know, because if you think about the old days, right? It was if you're, and you know, it's funny because I asked myself yesterday, I asked myself this question. I said, how is it that someone goes through all this, their body changes, they have this, they go through giving birth to another person. They hold them, they nourish them, they love them. And then when that little kid doesn't do something according to their rules, they just beat them. And I'm like,
because you know
wow.
what it is? Because it is that really, when we are children, we are sponges and we absorb whatever, even if abuse is normal, that's what our unconscious accepts as normal. Right. And what's so extraordinary with a lot of the coaching work that I do, it's about unpicking that unconscious programming, right? And we can't change the past, but we can change what we made the past mean about us, right? Which is
without a doubt
really important, you know, so important. And so that often as well, we don't even know that we've taken on board our parents' parenting styles until we become a parent. Right. Right. And then the first time you react like them, it's like, what just happened?
Yeah.
Like, what just happened? And for some people, they don't, that just keeps happening because to them it is so normal that they don't realize there's another way. Yeah. And for other people, they're so shocked by what they do that they go, oh no, this is not okay, and I choose something else.
Yeah. You know, it's very interesting when you talk about the norm, right? If you will, this is what's happened. It's always when we think about, well, it's always been done this way in my family, right? Yeah. But when I made the decision at 10 years old to run away, it's because I didn't want what was happening to me to continue to happen. When I made my decision at 18 years old to forgive, I also said, I will not allow myself to be like that. Yeah. So to me, that was the biggest lesson at 18, because I think at 10 years old is when I really found the ability to learn to protect myself, because that's when I started my martial arts training, right? And it wasn't my parents who ever gave me martial arts. I found
that's my sister, Prue Valentine, just gave us a love heart.
Yeah, right. So yeah, there you go, Prue Valentine. Thank you for joining us. But when we think about that forgiveness that I went through, it was also a conscious effort to say to myself, this is not something I want to pass along. This is something that I truly believe that no one else should go through. This is not a gift. This is a terrible thing. And also, when we demean someone, we talk down to them, because it doesn't have to be just, and I got every kind of abuse you can think of. That was me. My hand was raised. Did you get abuse like this? Yes. Did you get abuse like this? Yes. Did you get abuse like this? Yes. So I had all those things, and I said, this is where the buck stops with me. With my kids, I've never hit them. I never demean them. If anything, I'm always highlighting them, telling them how amazing they are and how they have a choice in life of even how they treat other people. So for me, the buck truly did stop there, because a lot of people, and you're right, I don't know. Well, firsthand, I've seen my brothers and how they've treated their children. So hopefully, and I know that they have an amazing relationship with their children, but maybe in the beginning they didn't understand how to be a good parent. And I see my brothers now, and I see my siblings, and they're good parents, right? But I don't know if they did in the beginning, and they probably had to learn how to become a good parent. I went from the point of, I'm not their parent, I am their guide.
Yeah.
So they're a human being, and I need to treat them way better than I was. I need to treat them with that royalty, that oh my gosh, you're a blessing, right? So that's how I see my kids. I don't see them as my children necessarily. It's weird, right? But I see them as a blessing, and how can I help guide them? So that's how I see my children. And people are like, man, you're just crazy the way you think, right?
Not at all. Not at all. I see the greatest gift last year. One of my sons and one of my daughters both had babies a month apart. So now I'm a grandmother.
Oh,
And the
wow.
greatest,
Congratulations.
I know. Oh, and the greatest gift I see is the extraordinary parents that they are. And I just look and I go, okay, and honestly, my 4 children are extraordinary humans. I always thought my role was as their mother to give them the space to grow into contributing self-sufficient members of society.
Right.
All right. And they contribute in such extraordinary ways. And I just go, okay. Mind you, they weren't all angels. When they all got to 21, I was also really pleased that they'd made it in one piece. It was like, yeah, but they are, that's such a gift to see that and to go, yeah. But, it's interesting that you had a spark or something at 10 that your other siblings didn't have. Now, for me, I'm the oldest of 5 girls. And yes, my parents used force, in order to do the best that they could. But I stood up to them. It was really interesting because one of my sisters once, who really did get a lot more physical abuse than I did, she goes, it never crossed my mind that I could do that. Whereas I was like, by the time I was 15, I was almost like this. Try it, right? Whereas she didn't have that. And it's like, whatever spark I had, I'm so grateful that I had it. And it's like, for you as well. Number 10 out of 12 had something
You're right.
that the others just didn't have.
Well, here's the crazy thing. I was the first one born in the hospital.
Wow.
And then I have a little brother and sister. They were born in the hospital too. But here's the thing. And you talked about standing up for yourself, right? And that's where a lot of people don't. That's where the bullying happens. The bullying between siblings, because my siblings, they beat me too, because they're like, hey, you know what? Mom and dad are beating him, so we can beat him too. And it was a learned thing, right? I remember my oldest brother, he punched me in the face. I had blood everywhere. And, before mom and dad came home, he apologized and he gave me an orange, thinking that the orange was going to take away my pain, right? And when I think about it, I was like, he did what he knew, but then he realized his mistake, and then he tried to make up for it by gifting me an orange, right? So
I'm
God
going to
bless
think,
him.
though, that an orange was pretty special in your household, that, with 12 kids,
So God bless him for doing that. But when we think about standing up for ourselves, and so many people, even as adults, don't stand up for themselves people go into an abusive relationship, whether it's a male or female. Listen, I know men who are in their 40s who their spouses abuse them, right?
Absolutely.
So it's not always the female being abused. You can look. I've seen men who will beat up any other man, but their wives abuse them, which is it's kind of a crazy thing to think about it, because they can literally demolish their wife, but they don't, because maybe it's that mother figure that they have in their head, right?
Although what can happen, what's so really bizarre, maybe they had an abusive father and they're going, I am not going to be him.
Right.
So what they do, not realizing that these are their only options, but this is our unconscious. The unconscious goes, okay, if I'm not going to be dad, then I have to act like mom.
Yeah.
So then they cop the abuse because they don't want to be like their dad.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like I see this, I see it a lot. And because our unconscious can be really binary like that. It's either this or this. It's not, oh, hang on a minute, I don't actually have to accept any of those choices. Yeah. I can choose something completely different, you know, and I think there's so much, and the abuse stems from what I find, and I work with people who are abusers as well as people who have been abused, and, you know, a lot of relationship stuff. And it's generally like, you know, with generalizations, there's always someone who put their hand up and say, that's not me. Generally speaking, people who allow themselves to be abused are people who have real abandonment issues. They're so terrified of being abandoned that they abandon themselves in the hope that they will be loved if they just put up with whatever's there. And unfortunately, that never leads, because there's no self-respect, the respect and the love never comes.
Yeah.
And then generally speaking, and again, people who are abusers have really big worthlessness issues where they have huge egos and really low self-esteem. And it's that it's a dog-eat-dog world out there. And I need to be better than you and put you in your place. And if I'm up here and you're down there, then there's at least one person that I'm worth more than.
Yeah.
You know, that really competitive thing. And it's about dealing with those really core beliefs and core fears. Because I know that the abuser never feels better when they've abused.
Right.
They just don't.
You know, the craziest thing that I did at 10 years old is that I stopped both my parents from continually hitting me. And one is, when my dad hit me, he didn't hit me with the belt, he hit me with the buckle. So that if I didn't bleed, he didn't stop, right? But, and I'm not saying this for anybody to feel sorry for me, because I found a way. When the belt came out, I ran like crazy. I ran around the house. And then one day I said, you know, I'm done running. I stood there and he beat me and beat me. And it triggered something in him, because in him, he realized, wait a minute, he's not running like he normally runs. I don't have to chase him. And he's just standing there, just looking at me. Can I tell you, he kind of gave me a look and stopped hitting me. And he was like, whoa. And that right there was the last time he ever hit me. And then the same thing with my mom. And for some reason, my mom used to beat me worse than my dad. So, and I'm not saying my mom was an evil person.
Not at all.
Or my dad, neither one of them, because they loved us. That's how they showed their love, right? And I'm not condoning that behavior. But what I am saying is that they were confused, because that's probably how they grew up. Their parents probably beat and abused them. So what wound up happening is, my mom was hitting me so bad that I actually, we were in the kitchen. I took a knife and I said, here, just end it. And I went to hand her the knife. And she said the most hurtful thing that I've ever had in my life. And she said, no, I'm going to do it slowly. And that made me, I put the knife down. And then as she's hitting me, I just stood there again. And that was the last time she hit me. And then once I forgave her, later on, she kept telling me I was her angel. I was her angel. And had I not forgiven my mom, I would never have had the chance to spend a week with her, a week before she passed, right? She passed the day before her birthday. And in 2020, she passed. And I got to spend a week, and this is before the pandemic came out, right? For us, the pandemic, we were told shut down March 16th. She died March 1st. So I was able to go and visit with her. And she actually, believe it or not, she was living with my sister. My sister's a true saint. So I got to spend a week with my mom. My mom at this point had Alzheimer's. And all she did that whole week was give me hugs and smile when she looked into my eyes. And that's something I never had as a kid. This is why I'm a big hugger. I love hugging, right? Because I never had that as a child from anyone. I didn't know love as a child. This is why I'm so compassionate to other people. I'm always looking to help someone. It's not like, what can you do for me? It's more like, how can I help you?
Right.
So for me, learning that so young, that, they're not going to love me. I need to love me. And that
You were
has truly helped me tremendously.
Right? You were kissed on the cheek by an angel at some point there.
I did.
For you to know that at such a young age.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest thing with the forgiveness, if you had not forgiven them,
oh no, my life would be different.
But that hard rock in your heart would have just grown. It would have been you that would have been affected.
Oh yeah.
You know, that in doing that, you've allowed yourself, and you're right, the heart has an infinite capacity for love.
Oh my gosh.
There's always room for one more, right?
Oh,
There's
yeah.
always room. It's not like, look, I really like you, but it's a bit full, but so-and-so, I'm thinking of getting rid of them and then I'll let you in. It's no, come in. There's space. Yeah. There's always
the more the
space.
merrier, right?
100%. 100%.
Yes.
Yeah. So with all that, I mean, what an extraordinary, and it in some ways that as well, that awareness, that kiss on the cheek, that spark that you had, whatever it was, has been your gift that now you share. You get to share.
Yeah. You know,
how extraordinary.
We all have that capability. We have that openness to allow. But because, and you talked about it earlier, that competition, right? So also, like, think about all of us were competing for our parents' love, right?
Yeah.
You were competing with your ex for that emotion that you both didn't know how to get to. And you woke up that minute on the stairs and you said, man, this is the darkest spot. But that was the springboard you needed, right? It
was. And you know what? Like I'm married again in September, a man that I've been with for 9 years,
Beautiful.
And then for Christmas, my ex was there with my children and the babies and everything, like it's good.
That's
Life
awesome.
is good because there's a level of emotional intelligence and maturity that we all just have. And it hasn't been easy, but the rewards, rewards are extraordinary, just extraordinary. And I just, and it just keeps getting better. I mean, people keep saying to me that they're expecting that I'm slowing down because, it's like, they go,
Not gonna
you're
happen.
getting on a bit now. It's like life is just still like more. It's doing this.
Mm-hmm.
It's this, that the opportunity to touch hearts and change lives. And why would you stop that?
Yeah.
I mean, I have been just downloaded, absorbed this beautiful knowledge. My soul is singing on a daily basis. Why would I not share that with people who want to change?
Yeah.
It's like, no. And I love, because what I've done now is that I now work with coaches or people who help people. All right. Because so many coaches are doing it on their own.
Mm-hmm.
And they're trying to reinvent the wheel, all of them. And, you have to be a one-man band, but you don't know how to play all the instruments. And so what I do is I pull them all together into this hub, and I bring people in to share that knowledge, and they create a community. And now what's so beautiful about the community is all of these people have got a calling to help people. And yet none of them in this community are competing with each other.
Yeah.
They're just not. And I said, can you hear who you want to help? Can you hear who you want to help? Like, the world needs you all. And together we can support each other. Like, there doesn't have to be competition until every single person in the world is open to feeling their feelings and delving in and understanding how they create their view of the world and understanding that they have choice.
Right.
Then my work's not done. The work with the people that I work with. I mean, clearly I'm not out there speaking to everyone, but we have devolved emotionally and spiritually.
Right.
And we have trusted too much on the logical and the analytical. And that's such a minute part of reality. And we just need to find our way back to all the other stuff.
Oh, yeah. Let me ask you about the neuro-linguistic programming that you got involved with, because when we think about the words, the concepts, the ideas that we use on a daily basis, right? And what made you go into that type of coaching, that type of understanding? I'm just curious.
Because
what triggered that point where you said, I want to go in and explore more about this, because it's fascinating.
I have a science degree in physiology and biochemistry, and then I went and did my MBA and business, and then I had a really successful business. So when I talk about logical mind, all right, I really prized my intelligence and my logical mind and my da-da-da-da-da. And I soon realized that is not everything. That is not. I don't get to control much at all. The only thing I can truly control is how I respond to situations. I'm co-creating my life with 8 billion other people, and I can't control any of them, and I can't control Mother Nature. So there is times when things are going to go south. And I went, okay, all right, so that I get to control how I respond, but I don't understand how I get to that response. And so that's why I did NLP, because what I love about it is that it gives you an understanding of how you create your view of the world. And it gives you freedom because you get to see how you choose the way you see the world and how you can change that choice. And so for me, the power in NLP was that understanding. Like, it just all makes sense. It's like, of course, okay. Well, where I'm being unresourceful, I get to choose. It doesn't have to be that I'm creating. We hear a lot about we're creating our reality. It's like, oh yeah, blah, blah, blah. We are. I mean, Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about us being bombarded with 40 million bits of information per second. And our extraordinary unconscious mind it's extraordinary. It deletes almost all of it, distorts the rest of it to fit with what we expect to see, and then generalizes it into 7 chunks of information, because that's all we can handle. Every second it's doing that. And the way it does that is through the filters that we've got in place. And those filters are our memories, our beliefs, our expectations, our mood, our energy levels, our language. That's a big one, and all of these filters help create what we see, which is why you and I could sit there and watch the same movie and yet see a completely different movie.
Oh, yeah.
Because we're using different filters. So for me, the power in that was going, okay, so if I change the filter, I can change what I see and I can change my reality. Okay. And one of the biggest ones that I sort of invite people to use immediately is language. When a kid comes in and goes, oh, this is so hard, it's not fair. And you go, oh, sweetheart, it is. It's not easy yet, is it? It's not easy yet. But if you keep going, you'll get there, right? Fully acknowledging that they haven't got it.
Yeah.
Not pretending, not going, oh, you'll get there, don't worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
That's not meeting them where they're at.
That doesn't help anybody.
It's hard. I know, sweetheart, it's not easy. Yeah? Because the unconscious doesn't hear the not.
Mm-hmm.
It just hears, not easy yet. It's like, okay, so what you're doing is inviting possibility rather than stuck into the, it's hard, I can't do it.
Right.
And so really easy ways, just for starters, before you even get to beliefs and fears and emotions and language.
Yeah.
Magic.
I love that word, yet.
Yeah.
It is one of my favorite words. I teach it to all my students. I teach it to my clients, not only just my because I teach martial arts. I don't just teach it to my martial arts members, but I teach it to my coaching clients also. Because without that one particular word, a lot of people say, well, I can't afford that. And I go, you can't afford that yet. Well, I can't do that. I say, you can't do that yet. And then so I teach them, I said, this is probably one of the most powerful words you're going to start to put in your vocabulary when you have doubt, because the other word that kills people is not word, but the other action in their mind is doubt, right? When they fill their mind with doubt, I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy enough. I can't. Why? How can I charge that amount?
Yeah.
Well, do you value yourself, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Words,
I know.
gosh, they're the most beautiful. They're beautiful, but they can also be deadly, if you will.
I always say that we cast spells every day. You can curse someone and they will take that curse to the grave.
Without a doubt, yeah.
Or you can cast a spell that creates magic for someone and transforms their life. In a sentence, you can see someone and just smile at them and say something that will lift them. And the words have so much power.
Right.
So much power.
One of the things that I have, my young kids that come to class, they have an attendance card and they have to ask for it every day. So I'm teaching them how to have manners, how to talk, and they can be 4 years old. They still have to come to the front desk. They have to ask the person behind the front desk, and they have to say, can I please have my card? But before they do that, they also have to, before they ask for anything, they have to ask the person, no matter who's at the front desk, they have to go, how are you today? And then the person asks them, and then they have to respond. And so one of the things I'm teaching the kids is when they come and I'm at the front desk, I'll say to them, how are you today? And they'll go, okay. And then they have to ask me how I'm doing. That's part of the rules, right? So when they ask me how I'm doing, I go, I'm exceptional and I'm getting better every day. And they're like, what? And so I have like this little 7, 8, 9-year-old kids. Now they're saying that to me. And now I had a woman, she's 65 years old. She said, "What did that kid just say to you?" And then I said, and then I said it to her. So now she's saying it to me every time I say, "How are you?" She goes, "Exceptional." And I go, "And?" She goes, "I'm getting better every day." I said, "Right."
Yeah.
And then somebody said to me, "I think you're doing wrong by the kids because you're having them say this. Meanwhile, maybe they're not feeling great. Maybe they're not feeling exceptional. Maybe they had a bad day." I said, "Yes, maybe they did. But those words will spark something in them to say, no matter how bad my day is going, I can make it better." So even though they may have had a terrible day, and you can be an adult, you can be a child, if you continue saying, "How's your day?" "Oh, okay." Even though it's, "Oh, okay." It's like, "Oh, it's terrible. I did this and I did what, da, 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 da." And usually people complain, right? And when you think about it, who really wants to hear someone complain? People don't, right? But when you tell somebody exceptional and getting better every day, it triggers two thoughts. One, to yourself, because you need to say these positive words to yourself, right? The second is to the person you're saying it to, because they're like, "Huh, what are they doing differently? Maybe I
Correct.
need to do it too," right?
Yeah.
So this is why words are so amazing. And when we can start to say the positive words that we need to on a daily basis, when we need to live in gratitude, right? Because everything that we look into, this is why I don't recommend watching the news, because what is it? This and this happened, blah, 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 blah. It's down, 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 right? So this is why I love what you do, by the way. Love it.
Oh, thank you. And I mean, I know as well that when you speak, because our body responds to the stories our mind makes up.
Mm-hmm.
So that
It doesn't know
my
if it's real or
mind,
not, right?
oh, look, the feeling, I grew up as when being told feelings aren't real. And that would confuse me because I could feel it. But what I've learned is the feeling is real, but the story that created it is fiction. And I get to change the story, right? And if I change the story, I change how I feel. Exactly what you're saying, I'm exceptional. Life's exceptional. It's just getting better. Oh, crikey, it's, da, 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 da. I mean, we will, whatever our mind tells us to expect, we will find it. 100%. We get what we expect to see.
Right.
And I know even with clients, they get with me, I'll go, "How are you?" They'll go, "Good." I'll go, "If good was a feeling," and they go, "Ah." Because good is, what is that? That is nothing. Yeah. No, give me something.
Yeah, give me something.
And then I get, like you say, exceptional. I go, "Yeah, more. They'll go, "I don't know, like fantastic." "Yeah, more." Okay, "Fabulously fantastic." "Yeah, great. What else?" And it just like,
yeah.
It's so important. It's so important.
Expand on that, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, if we have a choice, which we do, we all have a choice. Why would you choose to look at the weeds behind the bin when you can be looking at the flowers in the garden? Why would you choose? I choose the flowers, Yeah.
Cat, I just put your website on the screen. It's catvalentine.com.au.
Yeah.
You are an exceptional guest, and you're an exceptional
you.
person, and I am so
Thank you.
happy, that you had this chance to come and honor myself and Celeste. And oh my gosh, I love Celeste. She is just an amazing human being. And she sent me a picture that because of the storm, she now has candlelight because
Oh,
she lost all her power. So
mm,
Celeste, I know you're going to watch the replay, and we miss you, and when we
so
have you in
much.
our thoughts, right? And
Mm,
you know, when I ask someone to do the show with me, I asked not just anyone. I asked an amazing human being, and that's Celeste Priest, right? And
mm,
the only reason this show came to light is because her energy and mine combined was just extraordinary, right?
mm.
And I just love when she's around. She's got all the greatest questions. So I think we're going to have you back.
Oh, yes, please.
Right? Because we barely touched the surface, didn't we?
Oh, there's so much more.
Oh my
There's so much.
gosh.
I have loved this so much. And yes, I really, when I, watched and listened to you guys, Celeste is such a beam of light.
Yeah,
And
she is.
she's so extraordinary.
Yeah.
That would be such a wonderful thing to come back and do
Oh,
this
we'd
all
love to
again.
have you back. But I also want to
That'd be really
invite you. I want to invite you and everybody listening to New York. I'm having an amazing Heroes Rising, right? Because I believe that there's a hero in every one of us. There's a hero waiting in you,
Oh,
whoever
yeah.
you are listening to us.
Mm,
You are that hero. I was a hero at 10 years old when I stood up for myself. You don't have to start with anyone else. We have to start with us so that
mm,
we can be a hero to someone else.
mm,
You know, when you look at all these stories of people helping other people helping a dog, an animal, a cat, another human being, when somebody passes something forward which is positive, they're a hero. So there's a hero in all of us. And I'm
mm.
having July 13th through the 16th, we're having Heroes
I'm looking at my
Rising.
calendar.
You have to come to New York, but I would love for you to be a speaker as well. And we're going to talk more about that because
Oh,
your
yeah.
message is a message like my message of love. And if you think fertility in us, right? And
Mm,
I know we talk about
mm,
fertility in a woman, but it's fertility in us, that growth that has to happen in each one of us. And it
mm.
doesn't matter the age.
Correct. Correct.
Yes.
Oh, we are certainly going to talk more. This is brilliant, Raphael. Thank you.
Oh, yeah,
Mm,
absolutely. So
mm.
I know we're wrapping it up. What advice would you give somebody right now? Because we are definitely going to have you back. And maybe it won't be too long from now because I know Celeste is like, oh, I wanted to be there. And so I'm gonna send you a couple of dates, and you just respond back to me. I'll
Beautiful.
confirm with her, and
Yeah.
then we definitely will have more conversation. But what advice would you give someone
What I would
besides come
really,
back and watch you again,
yeah,
right?
come back, come back, come back. No, well, honestly, I would like for everyone there, we all have something where we have a really big feeling. All right. And I have 5 sisters. If we feel the Valentines
Hi,
keep
Kylie.
coming on.
That's beautiful. That's a great thing.
Yeah, but my advice is to get really comfortable dropping into your body and feeling, reconnect, feel what it's feeling. And here's the thing. When we drop into our body and go, what's happening in my chest? Oh, it's tight. Oh, it feels really painful. Oh, that's that. But you drop out of your head and it gets quiet. Your head can't follow you into your body.
No.
So when you just go drop in and you just go, I just need to sit with my body and witness what's happening. And it just goes quiet. And it's just like, even if what's happening is I've got an upset stomach, it's churning, it feels like fear, it feels like this, but the mind quietens. And when the mind quietens, then you have a chance to step back and get perspective. And that's what's really important.
I agree,
Yeah.
1,000%.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
when we think about, and you talked about the filters that we use, and we can change the filters. And changing the filters is great. And the other thing I tell people is that we need to look into the mirror, because that's the person we need to love. That's the person we need to answer to. And that's the person that no matter where you go, they're there.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing is, make sure you're looking in a clean mirror,
Yeah.
not that dirty mirror, right? Clean it. Have that
Yeah.
perspective of seeing yourself and be honest with yourself, right?
And I am so much more than what you can see, right?
Mm.
My value is not in what's on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
This just houses what is most precious,
Without a
you
doubt.
and that's what people need to look into the mirror and see. That. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Mm.
Love it. And
Thank you, Raphael.
I look forward to our conversation again. I want you in New York. I want everybody.
Oh, I want to be there. Oh, I want to come. I'm looking at my calendar. It's on the wall. I'm going, the 13th to the 16th. How can this happen?
Yeah, July 13th through the 16th. Heroes Rising. It's going to be a summit to bring a bunch of amazing people together. But here's the thing, we're going to have not only amazing coaches like yourself, but we're going to have authors, people who've created things, people who have making a difference in the world, because those are the people that I love associating myself with. We need to change this world, and we needed to change it with love, kindness, and compassion, right?
It's the only thing that works.
That's
right?
it.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Right. Have an amazing rest of your day.
I will. Thank
Talk
you
soon.
so much, Raphael. Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.